Welcome to Joe Stunner Boxing. I want to talk about light heavyweights because at the weekend we had two light heavyweight fights last weekend that were absolutely fantastic. This was on the last Crescendo Riyadh season card. We had the top of the tree was Bivol versus Beterbiev, a rematch of their fantastic first fight, one of my favourite fights of last year, and this is going to be one of my favourite fights of this year because they picked up where they left off. Bivol won a close decision, very, very competitive. Everything you love about boxing was on display, not just over those 12 rounds, but over the 24 rounds, I would say. You know, high ring IQ, guts, two contrasting styles that meshed beautifully because you had the come forward sort of man-mangling pressure of psychological pressure, mental pressure, obviously physical pressure from Beterbiev, and then you had Bivol having, more of a box fighter, knew he had to be busy for every second of every round, had to walk through walls in the middle rounds because Beterbiev was coming on strong, managed to get his second wind, very competitive, wonderful stuff. Just both guys, an absolute credit to the sport, and they both deserve all the plaudits they can possibly get. Now, I happen to think that Bivol edged both of those fights, not just the second one. I know some people will say, well, I actually thought Beterbiev won both those fights. Close, competitive. And I don't have a problem with people having a difference of opinion, so long as the criteria used for scoring a fight is consistent throughout the fight. Because the only thing I object to is people moving the goalposts. They have a certain criteria for one round, then they change it to the next round, then they change it again. So one guy, in a sense, could be given an unfair advantage. If you're scoring a fight consistently using your same criteria throughout the fight, no problem. You get differences of opinion. That's where scoring is subjective. It is subjective. But I happen to think Bivol won both fights. If you thought Beterbiev won them both, or if you feel they were split, some people I've met think Beterbiev won the first fight but lost the second, and vice versa, other way around. They're such great dance partners, these two. Their performances absolute at an optimum level for both of them. It's so fantastic to see these guys ply their trade. I mean, they're both a credit to boxing, to themselves. But to me, because historically they've now got one fight each, they've got to have a third fight. They've got to have a decider. And trilogies have been part of boxing history in time and memoriam. We've had everything from Ali Frazier to, more recently, would probably be Barrera Morales, Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti, three fantastic fights. Those three fights, was it Michael Carbajal, Humberto Gonzalez? Was that three fights? It was, wasn't it? Some guys have more than three fights. Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta fought, was it 6 times? I know they had 2 fights within the space of 21 days, which was amazing. But this is, and if you go way, way, way back, especially when the colour bar was in place, you would have people fighting each other 8, 10, even 12 times, But I want to see a decider. I think those 24 rounds between Beterbiev and Bivol was so incredible. I want to see a decider. I think boxing history deserves to see who's coming out on top. I always think it's a bit irritating that Ben and Eubank didn't have a decider. I mean, you could say, Rockman and Lewis, and people say people have gotten into this irritating habit of saying, well, the person that wins the second fight has got revenge. Well, no, actually, it's still 1-1. Eubank Jr. and Liam Smith are 1-1. In fact, Liam Smith got rid of Eubank Jr. much, much quicker than Eubank Jr. got rid of Liam Smith, even though the second fight, Chris did dominate. So I want to see deciders, and nowhere that in living memory is maybe Barrera Morales. Nowhere have the first 2 fights been so competitive and so fantastic that they demand a decider. So I want to see that rubber match. I want to see that trilogy fight. Now, the other fight on last weekend was another fantastic contest between Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smiths. And it's one I thought Buatsi would win. I thought he'd win late stoppage or points. I was confident, not a bit of it. Got that one wrong because Callum Smiths showed there's plenty of life in him, plenty of life. And he looks really good at 175. it's a miracle he ever got down to 168, but he did. He won world titles, won the Ring Magazine belt, won the World Boxing Super Series. I mean, knocked out George Groves, and but didn't do anything against Canelo. I don't know whether it was because he was weight trained or what it was. He was just stale or what, but it was a complete non-effort. And I was really, really disappointed with his performance against Canelo. Really disappointed. And I'd been really quite high on Callum Smith for the first half of his career. I thought, this guy's going places. And he did win belts. But at the age he is now, 34, I thought, okay, he's probably there for the taking for Joshua Buatsi. But he rolled back the years. And you can make an argument for that being his finest performance in his whole career. It's amazing. Great fight. Buatsi did more than his part, fought very, very courageously with a lot of skill. Technically, this was, a few levels below Beterbiev Bivol, but then what isn't? And I just thought that the winner of this, which is, of course, Smith, deserves a bigger fight. It deserves to move on. Now, you could say, well, perhaps they should fight again, Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith, because it was such a great fight, the first one. Okay, I wouldn't object to that. Unfortunately, this fight was the first one on the main card, on the last Crescendo card. And so it kind of got lost in the mix a little bit. It was 5:30 UK time. They started boxing, roughly 5:30, 5:45, something like that. Too early. Had this been the chief support, which it thoroughly deserved to be in terms of entertainment value, yeah, I mean, these guys people would have been ranting and raving. And if you stick a rematch on at, say, the O2 in London, it'll sell out in a flash. It'll be a brilliant fight. No problem. No problem with a rematch at all. Both guys, again, a credit to themselves. But some people are saying, let's bring in someone else. Let's bring in David Benavidez. How about David Benavidez fights the winner of... First of all, a lot of people are saying they want to see Benavidez fight Bivol or Beterbiev. Again, not a fight I have a problem with at all, but I want to see that third fight. I want to see the trilogy fight first. Some people are saying, we've seen it twice, we don't need to see it again. And I don't agree. I want that trilogy fight. I want a decider. And then, do I have a problem with Zerdo, with David Benavidez, excuse me. Yeah, David Benavidez. Do I have a problem with him fighting the winner of Bivol Beterbiev? No, but I want to see the trilogy fight first. In the meantime, I would like to see Benavidez fight Callum Smith. I think stylistically, that's a great matchup. I think Callum has earned a shot at a big name, which Benavidez most certainly is. Benavidez coming off a win over the other David Morrell, great win. He's only had 2 fights at light heavy, Benavidez. But you could see with the Morrell-Benavidez fight why Canelo ducked both of them. They moved to 175 to carry on with their careers, quite rightly so, because Canelo didn't want to know. Canelo's at the point where he's doing a bit of picking. He's, picking and choosing who he fights. So, yeah, Benavidez, terrific fighter. Let's have him in with Callum Smith. If Callum and Joshua Buatsi don't go for a second fight, put him in with Benavidez. Now, as far as Joshua Buatsi is concerned, if he doesn't get a second Smith fight, what about him against Yarde, finally, against Anthony Yarde? Anthony Yarde, you could have, if it's a Riyadh thing, you could have Benavidez and Callum Smith on the top of the card, and underneath you could have Buatsi and Yarde. Yarde is now back with Frank Warren, with Queensbury. Therefore, it's a pretty easy fight to make. Callum Smith is with Matchroom. Buatsi is with Ben Shalom and Boxer. They're all sort of, sniffing around the whole Riyadh, Turkey Al Sheikh. I was almost going to call it like a cartel. It's getting to be more like a monopoly than a cartel. But you know what I mean? Those are not difficult fights to make. So I'd like to see a little bit of a mini tournament going on here with the 175 pounders. So just to recap, Bivol Beterbiev III, that's my number one priority. Callum Smith and Benavidez, fantastic fight. Winner will take on the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev, the third fight. And just to keep him in the mix, Anthony Yarde and Joshua Buatsi, that'll be a great matchup too. If you have the British matchups on Riyadh season, fine. If you don't, if you have them on have them at Wembley or somewhere in Britain, Manchester, the Co-op, what's that, Manchester Co-op venue that's quite new. A lot of boxers have been saying they want to fight there because it's a great venue. That's absolutely fine. But I think the 175 pounders, there's lots of great matchups. And I don't think the fact that the belts are supposedly, tied up in undisputed fights, that won't last forever. And I don't mind that you've got these two elite, brilliant fighters who've got all the belts at the moment. They deserve to have their third fight. They deserve for their, day in the sun to become a week in the sun, shall we say. No problem with that at all. But there are some terrific 175 pound matchups. And the light heavyweight division has sort of, we've waited a long time, haven't we, we waited an awful long time for Beterbiev versus Bivol. That's one of the things that our friend, the excellent Turkey, has put together. We owe him one for that, amongst other things. Let me know what you think, though. Perhaps you don't share my enthusiasm for Bivol versus Beterbiev III. Perhaps you're thinking, no, I want to see Benavidez going there with Bivol or Beterbiev, or one of them. Maybe Beterbiev, Benavidez, and then the winner fights Bivol. I don't know. There's so many permutations. You let me know what you think. Where do you think Callum Smiths and Buatsi and Yarde fit into all of this as well? Let me know. And David Morrell still on the scene, losing to Benavidez. David Benavidez, no big shame. I think the guy's only had about 12 fights, so he's still in the mix as well. So let me know what you think. Comments below. And please, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new, because you're supporting us, you're supporting this channel. And I really, really appreciate your time, your opinions, and I'll have a read of your comments and answer as many as I can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, much love to all of you. Peace. I'll get you later. Bye for now.